All right, it says we're live. So here's hoping we're live. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Work in Progress Wednesday stream, the first one of Nomvember. You can see that I'm really trying to push the boat out with my setup on OBS. Hey, Force Sprite's here. So good to have you, Jacob, Foster, Blitz Mechanica, and Force Sprite. Kajan is actually on the phone with me today, sitting in the Brother Pink spot. So thank you, Kajan, for helping out with the stream.
Sure thing.
Okay, so things look a little different here. That's because for this first stream of Nomvember, I want to get going on my next big project, which is a old one-eye Carnifex based on this classic piece of Dave Gallagher, I think, art. And yeah, a million years ago, working from a much smaller version of this art, I created a much smaller Carnifex. This is, well, let's see if I can get this close to the camera one sec. Hold on, just going to change my settings. Okay. So,
Jacob says the setup looks cool.
Oh, cool. I'm glad it's working. I just hope I don't drop this model. A long time ago, like back in like 2003 or 2004, I created this Carnifex. I called her Hell. I know you guys are probably getting a little bit of like flickering from the fluorescent. I can see it on my stream. Sorry about that. If I turn off that fluorescent, it's really dark in here. So yeah, so this is Hell. This is my old one-eye Carnifex this was actually one of the first things I ever sculpted and converted. Some of my first work with green stuff and horrible plumber's putty. And that was based on this larger sketch. But it's always been like I was pretty happy with what I did, and I entered it in like a Canadian Golden Demon at the time. I didn't really win anything because the paint job wasn't that great. But it's always been my dream to do something bigger with this model. I think I did pretty well on translating this sketch, but I think I could do much better. So that's what I'm aiming for my big project for Nomvember. So tonight, what I was hoping to do was to get out a bunch of Tyranid sprues. I don't have every Tyranid model here, but I have most of them. Got one of these. Got one of these. And try and figure out what bits to possibly use for this dude. And hopefully y'all are willing to help out. I don't know how... Well, Kajan, I'm glad you're on the call, because you're probably pretty familiar with Tyranid kits.
Yeah, more or less.
Good.
Horus says hi.
So yeah. So hopefully you can... I don't know how this is going to go, but we'll figure it out. And yeah, feel free to chime in, people in the chat, or chime in yourself, Kajan, or just kind of like sit back and relax, and I'll figure it all out myself, but we'll see. So yeah, this sketch was... Yeah, long story short, I don't know if this is going to make good TV, or good video, but we'll see. So this is a really cool book of art that was released... When the hell was this released? Looks like...
Blitz Mechanica says he had an idea to make a knit from a rock mold and put it in a freezer to make it out of frozen ice and take a picture before it melts.
You mean for, like, old one-eye? Because old one-eye was caught in the ice. So that would be a pretty cool way to replicate it. Or you just mean a Tyranid in general?
He didn't say.
Well,
Horus Lupercal is here.
Hey, Horace, welcome. Good to see you back. Promise we'll do Games Workshop stuff this time and not weird... what was that thing we were doing? Mech Warrior? Although, Kajan, I was really glad you were on that call, too, because you were like... Battletech, thank you. You were like a super expert on Battletech on that call. So that was helpful. When the hell was this published? Oh, this was published in 2000. Really? I thought it was published just after that, because this came out and it had all kinds of stuff in the front, but in the back of it, that's where all the really good shit is. It's broken up by like different factions. So there's like Orc art and like Chaos art and like Eldar art. There's like the really cool like Silas Hand art, Karn the Betrayer. But in the back, there's a section called The Future Unbound. So this was, I think, kind of Games Workshop cheeky, giving people a sneak peek of what was coming. One of my favorite Lictor sketches of all time. I think this is a Jess Goodwin sketch. And then we've got, and I tried to sculpt that too. And we look at this. We got a Destroyer, Necron Destroyer. That's the current Necron Destroyer. That picture was put out in like 2000, 2001. So yeah, this was stuff to come. But in the back of this is where I originally saw this picture. And this book came out it came out around the time that the Pewter Carnifex came out. And like this is what we were expecting to see from the Pewter Carnifex. And then it didn't really turn out like that. And then it was like, well, maybe that's going to be the sketch for the Plastic Carnifex. And the Plastic Carnifex came out and it didn't really turn out like that. So I've been obsessed with it ever since. And
Blitz clarified that he meant any model.
Oh, okay.
And he is not a Tyranid expert, so he didn't have a specific model in mind.
Okay. I figured there's not going to be a ton of Tyranid experts, but that was a pretty funny observation because the original fluff for this guy this is just a Carnifex. I don't know that this is necessarily Old One Eye, but because it has the like crab claws that we know from Old One Eye. There's one. There's the other one.
It would have to have the terrible One Eye.
Yes. So I think this was meant to be Old One Eye, or maybe this was just meant to be a Carnifex. But the fluff for Old One Eye is that he was found encased in ice on Macragge. So your idea about making a Tyranid out of a rock mold and freezing it, that's kind of appropriate for Old One Eye. That's not Marco, Blitz. Wait, is there another Marco here? Kajan is not Marco. Kajan is a different German. I know it's hard to keep them straight, but we do have a couple of them kicking around.
Yeah, not that many of us.
We have a couple of them kicking around. So I'm gonna try and figure this out. The original model that I produced was on I guess this is a 40 mil or 60 millimeter base. I never know the measurements, but I want to do this one on a much larger base. So again, I don't know the measurement, but this like oval base, I think it's the base that comes with the Tyrannifex. So that's the kind of scale that I'm looking for this dude. I haven't really decided if I want to use like the original Carnifex head, because I want him to be representative of Old One Eye, and I think like doing these styles of crab claws are going to be a pretty Old One Eye move. But a lot of this is going to be kind of like original and different. So I was thinking that by keeping that, there's that one head on the Carnifex sprue, which is like the regeneration head that's got like the skull exposed. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
That's the classic. Well, not really classic, but the Old One Eye head, because the lore is that the hive mind allegedly keeps that skull exposed to in reference of Old One Eye.
You think that was it? Oh, I haven't actually read that part. I thought the skull exposed thing was just meant because
apparently it got shot off, and the real Old One Eye disappeared somewhere into a space hulk. Into a freighter, and the freighter got lost. What really happened to it, nobody knows, but it's explained that everyone with that face scar.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's
why it's called the Old One Eye.
All right.
Joe said his Death Leaper is based on a Lictor sketch when the Medusa campaign was a thing.
Oh, that would be a cool one.
Darth Bob says Hell 2.0 time hype.
Yes, Darth Bob. Glad you could make it, buddy. So Darth Bob is another Tyranid creator from Instagram. And he reached out, and I posted about this project on Instagram saying that he remembers the original Hell, this little lady, and that he was excited about the prospect of doing a new Hell. I guess I should just leave her up there. So good to have you, man. Glad you could join us. So Darth Bob, just wanted to explain that what we're trying to do on this stream, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to pull out a bunch of Tyranid kits and see if I can find some bits that are going to work for this, and I'm looking for all of your input. Sorry, what was Jacob saying?
Foster says, what if you make the Cyclops to be, make it a Cyclops to be cheeky?
Oh.
And I kind of agree with them.
That could be cool, because I do like this weird eye setup here, but that could be done with like a central eye. I like that idea. Alright, so I got some bits that I kind of pulled out earlier, thinking about this. When I was doing Games Day Canada in 2009, oh god, where is it? Oh, I stripped it. We made like a recreation of the it was supposed to be a recreation of the Tyranids' arrival on the planet Tyranid, which is like where they get the name Tyranid or Tyranid from their appearance on that planet. And for that, we made a bunch of Tyranids that were kind of old school style. Like we tried to recreate second edition Tyranids using later edition models. And for that, we created Screamer Killers, and Bits of Box made one Screamer Killer, and I made another Screamer Killer. I think I've got pictures of that posted up on Instagram. But for my Screamer Killer, I had created like my own custom like scythe arms. Oh god, that's really bright. One sec. So, sculpting distance. All right, so I'd created these scything talon arms with kind of like armor plates down the edge of them, and I created them out of plastic card and sculpted them, and then my buddy Ross cast them. So I had this idea of maybe using these as the scything talons for this guy, because I never really got to use them on anything else. Because the reality is that Tom Bits of Box made his own.
Want to make the grab claws.
Yeah.
I would use either stone crusher claws or use those the ones you just showed as bases for the crushing claw.
Yeah. I was going to show this. So
because
these.
I think for a sighting talon, it kind of lacks a tipping point with which it can slice.
Yeah. Well, if you look at his.
That's looking better.
If you look at his scything talons, they're hooks. They're more hooks than scythes. So like if you compare that to like a standard scything talon, a standard scything talon's pretty pointy, but this one's kind of hooked up. So that's why I was thinking of using these ones, because the way I made them, they had a hook on them. I'd have to cut them down a bit and extend them. I like the idea of finally using these on a model, because I never have. So kind of like a, I don't know, nostalgia thing for me. Because I made them, but then Tom made... Hold on, I'm going to show these on the stream. Tom made these claws, which are very much like a straight... He sculpted this from scratch, and this is like a straight copy... not copy. Like, he took the classic Screamer Killer claws, and he really brought them to life with his sculpt, which was far superior to mine. And so we wound up using these, but we never wound up using my ones on anything. So keep those as a maybe.
Mansa Miniature says the old sketch has some nice older design elements in it. I think making old one eye like that would be a great way to show he's been around a long time, earlier stage of Tyranid evolution. And Darth Bob says, I think you and box solution for the torso for the Screamer Killer conversion would work really well for this actually. Jacob Foster says the talons would be cool, and okay. Darth Bob says especially because the back kind of seems to split into the kind of skeletal texture down the back.
Yeah, so that texture down the back, like that's always stuck with me. And I saw that as like, well, I interpreted that as like vents, like weird vents on the back when I did my own version of it. But I never thought about it as skeletal, but you're right, that this could all be carapace. The other challenge that I have is that like, this is a lot of carapace. And when we look at your standard Tyranid carapace, there's like a big plate that goes on the top, like on the Carnifexes on the front, and then it like plates down the back. So I didn't do it so much on this one, but that's a lot of plate. But I guess the like pointed bits would be just behind that.
Yeah, those pointed bits, those ridges, the skeletal structure, it's probably the spine banks where it's firing the spines off.
Well, that's a good idea. And they're like firing more upwards than firing forwards.
Well, if it's charging with the head down, so the shoulders are forward like a linebacker,
Yep.
then those would be horizontal and he could shoot them forward.
That is a good idea. I just had an idea. Who was it? Manzak who was talking about hallmarks of the old design. What other hallmarks do you see in there, Manzak? Because I just found one that I think. Who remembers these bad boys? Who is old enough to remember taupe, ivory-colored Tyranid warriors? The old anti-boys. I got a bag full of those. And one of the best bits in there is their like ribcage bit. This is very old Tyranid stuff. I don't know if people remember this. Here.
Those are the mix with the centaurs, right?
Yes, kind of centauri. So they had these like really cool ribcage bits that they used, which that bit kind of reminds me of the crotch bit on Old One Eye here. So in the interest of having hallmarks to older kits, it'd be cool to be able to use that. Although I don't know if that's big enough. Seems pretty small. So when I was thinking about making this dude and making him proper large, one inspiration that I took is there's someone on Instagram who goes by Craftsman Jojo. I've posted some of his stuff on the Warp Shadow account. And Craftsman Jojo, he made his own Old One Eye. I think I might have posted it on Warp Shadow. But it's really, really tall, and it has like a really long tail. And a lot of the lower body sections are from Tyranifexes. Or a Tyranifex. So I always thought about the Tyranifex legs as being like really big and spindly. But now I'm wondering if maybe they would be good to give the proper height to a Carnifex that's supposed to be this big.
Yeah, it could work.
So I've got these kind of crappy... when I did my Gun Beast, I used China cast Tyranifex bits that I got on eBay without realizing it was China cast. But I've still got legs from them. So I got these ones. Although I have a Tyranifex here somewhere. In my stack of bits. Because that, like, the Tyranifex is the Tyranid with, like, the most... I feel like they've got the biggest legs of all the Nids. So these ones are hollow. Maybe it would be better to use hollow ones than these. Because the Tyranifex legs are really beefy. But I still think they're pretty spindly for a Carnifex. Like, they're not very... They're pretty thin. To, like, hold up...
Scipio Joe says, do not make the portulit mistake. His legs are way too small to support the weight of the upper body.
Yep.
And Das Bob says, I think one question you should ask is, do you want to maintain the super top-heavy look of the art? Because his torso is huge. It may be interesting if you almost went gorilla-ish with it, and I agree with Das Bob.
Yeah, I agree too. I definitely want to go big. Like, if you look at this guy, look at the size of this crushing claw. Like, this thing is... This is, like... That claw is basically the size of his carapace. Oh, Mark, hey, welcome, buddy. We're doing a weird stream today where I'm going to make this in Carnifex form, and I'm trying to hash out ideas with all of you and see what kind of ideas we can come up with for bringing this piece of art to life in an Old One Eye. So, yeah, when I was, like, messing around with this and, like, trying to, like, think about ideas and stuff like that, I just like did this like rough sketch sort of thing. But one thing that I noticed is that it almost comes all the way around. Like this claw kind of pops out a bit, but otherwise it just kind of like the claw into the carapace and then it comes all the way back around. That's something that I definitely want to preserve because that it kind of gives a beetle look to it. Oh, you can't even see that line. Okay, whatever. But I do want gorilla. Like I want him to be big. Anyone who's seen me kick around, I love me some big chonky knits. So I think I'll bust out these Tyranifex legs. Because I've got... Okay, that's Carnifex. That's Tyranifex. What else have we got that has big legs? I've got...
Jacob Foster asks, are you going to make both crushing claws the same size or make one larger than the other like a hammered crab?
I'm thinking of doing one like larger than the other. Because if you look at these, this one is larger than this one. And when I did my original, I made them slightly different. Like this one was slightly bigger than that one, but not hugely. But in terms of like, if we're talking scale, let's see. So this is like one piece of paper kind of. There's a little bit that sticks up there. And we stick it here. There's quite a bit more of that claw. So yeah, I would definitely want to stick to these. This claw looks more like kind of streamlined to me. And thinner, and then even when you look at the claw sections, they're more tapered and more kind of pointed at the ends. This looks more like for snipping, whereas this one for me is like a big honkin', I'm gonna crush the crap out of something. So you mentioned the stone crusher claws, Kajan. So I've got some stone crusher claws here. I've always loved the stone crusher claws.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if they're big enough. Like... We're talking like a claw that is as big as a body. And I've always wanted to use these, and I've never really managed to, but I don't know. I think they might be too small. Actually, you know what? They might work for the smaller of the two. The more streamlined one?
Yeah, and you could use the sighting claw you showed earlier with the hook and as the bottom of the big claw. Know what I mean? So,
ah! Okay. I didn't think about that. That's a really good suggestion.
And we have more suggestions from the chat. Darkbot says, do you have the little vent spine bits from the Hyrule you're using for Dawn 3.0? Those might be interesting. They have a similar shape to the spine shown in the art.
I should have those bits.
And Mark says, I've been building an armature out of sprue for a knit-esque thing.
Oh, nice.
Symbio Joe says, it's a fiddler crab.
Oh yeah, with the two different size claws.
Scratch Bashing asked, is that hell? And yes, it is, the 2.0 version. And Jacob Foster asks, could you use Ein? I have no idea. For the little claw.
Could you use what? Yeah,
I have no idea. It's just INE.
Yeah, what? I think, Jacob, I think you missed something. Scratch bashing. You remember Hellman?
Claw almost has more of a dexterous, crabby look.
Yes, I definitely agree.
What if the little fingers were like flash hooks that he can reach out to place gnomes and drag them, to pierce gnomes and drag them into crushing?
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah, I got like the weird little hooky fingers on the my version, but I like that idea of them being like flesh hooks that can like shoot out and grab something.
And Jacob says, corrected himself and says, could you use the one for the little claw? So I think he's talking about crushing claw.
Yeah, so I like the idea of using the stone crusher claws as the small one. I think that's definitely cool. So I dragged out. I don't have a full Harrispex kit, but I think those legs are pretty stumpy. I have a Toxicrene or whatever, and their legs are so small. Like they're like Carnifex legs, but they're just beefier. So I really think that the Tyrannifex legs are what we got to go with for this guy. Yeah, this kit is just awkward. Actually, maybe the torso would be useful. So the thing with the torso is that I don't really know what's going on with the torso because the like head's in the way and like there's like weird little secondary sighting talents here. Oh, was it Darth Bob that suggested using the bits off of the hair duel? Because I definitely have those. I got a pile of those.
Yes.
And those would be great for the back. So I'll definitely use those. It's a good idea. Just gotta match them. Because I've like every DOM I've ever created, I just rip these things off and never use them. I'm supposed to be putting them back on the current DOM. Like I want to put some rows of them, but I think I have enough to spare.
Scratch bashing says hell. Yeah, hell is a classic.
Oh, scratch bashing! I'm so glad you remember hell. I feel like I mentioned this on Instagram. I feel like I don't expect people to remember hell because other Tyranids I've created have like seemed to be more popular with people. But yeah, hell has always been near and dear to my heart. So I'm really excited to get the opportunity to go back and do a better job than I originally did. So those are.
I know that feeling really well.
Yeah. What do you have a kit like that you went back to recently to like take another run at?
No, I'm as a writer, I have stories where I sometimes go back and do them over again.
That takes work, man. I also a bit of a writer, and I don't know. Brother Pink commented on this when we were interviewing Moloch, but I don't know if it made the final cut. That once I'm done something, I just want to be done, and it's very hard for me to go back and like revise it and see if I can do better because I just want it to be off my plate, kind of thing.
Yeah. Darth Bob says, I like the little veiny texture on those spines. I'd be interested to maybe see that texture continue down the torso. Maybe the veins would be coalesced towards whatever is going down the center of his back.
Yeah. Are these that veiny? There's not that many veins on these ones. They're like ridged. They're more ridgy. They're more like.
Maybe he means the ridges.
Maybe, yeah.
And Jonas Malhan asks,
"Oh, that's Brother Pink.
Maintain the bony head crest in all the Tyranids."
Bony head. Oh, like the armor plates on the head. I think so because like it's not that clear, but he does have them. So it looks like he's got like one big plate here that maybe extends all the way forward, and then there's another plate there. So there's only two that you can see, and then there's something going on here where the neck attaches. I did it on original Hell. But yeah, I think I'm gonna I don't know. I've thought about preserving the like Tyranid head crest, but for some reason when I look at this head reminds me more of like a Screamer Killer head than like a typical Carnifex head, in the sense that like the Screamer Killer head was very bare. It was like a lot of it was exposed. So you can, I don't know how well you can see it on the video, but oh yeah, you can see it pretty well. So this here is an armor plate, and this here is an armor plate, but hold on. Let's see if I can. I don't know how well the color is going to show up, but that's an armor plate, and then this is an armor plate, and it kind of comes in, and I don't know what happens here, but So we have like two recognizable armor plates here, and then there's kind of a ridge structure that comes in over the eyes, so I don't know if that's an armor plate. That's how I interpreted it. There's like a gap here that we don't really get what's going on. But then there's all of this area, which seems like it's just skin. Or like the Tyranid, whatever the Tyranid version of skin is. But there's like a ridge structure here, kind of, and then there's like these vents on the side of the head. But I think this is all like skin as well. And then you get like, this looks like an armor plate to me. Like kind of on the side, maybe like a gorget or something, protecting the head. I think that's certainly how I interpreted it on the original Hell, where like there was the back plate and then there was like an armor plate coming around the front. And then I did an armored chest for the original Hell, but I don't actually find that interesting. I feel like it's cool to have like the ribs exposed and stuff. But yeah, I think this is all armor, but like to me this looks exposed. This part looks exposed. Because I think he's got enough armor here on his back, and then like with the giant claws, like they're huge armored claws, so I think that he could be a little more exposed to make it a little more interesting. So yeah, I'll keep these, stick them in here, this out of here. I will harvest the Tyranifex legs. What do I do with them?
Tom Wilson asks, what's the scale of the Haspex class versus the one you have? I think he...
Good question. I think I have one. What the heck is that? Because I had a Haruspex kit, but I used it to create the Dactylus conversion that I did. And for some reason I have one claw left. I don't know what I did with the other one. Kind of makes me sad.
I think the Haruspex claws should be a little smaller than the Bone Crusher one.
You think so? I thought they were a little bigger. Let's see. We got them right here. So we'll get these suckers out. Yeah, I've never loved the Haruspex claws on the Haruspex just because they're so big and they're on such small little weedy arms that, I don't know, they don't seem believable to me.
I always think they look good on a Carnifex.
Yeah, I would agree. So that's the Haruspex claw. And here we've got... Where? I don't know where the thumb parts are. Oh, maybe they're here. Anyway, whatever. So let's...
I think Darth Bob says in regards to the picture and the armor plate, it may only be towards the bottom of them. The texture is kind of subtle.
So there's our comparison of the Stone Crusher versus the Haruspex Claw. So it looks to me like the Stone Crusher is more like streamlined, and the Haruspex is more kind of like big and beefy. But maybe they could work together.
What I like about the Stone Crusher one is that it looks like an industrial-sized claw with which you open, like at a car crash when you have to peel open.
Like Jaws of Life kind of thing that they would use. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know, something about the Haruspex one has always looked goofy to me.
Because it's so chunky, it doesn't look like it could tear armor plates apart.
Yeah, like it doesn't look functional.
Like a club, you hit something with it.
Yeah, true. It's also the case that it's armored here, but then here it's just like the like Tyranid skin chitin sort of stuff.
You're still at a far away camera.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Let's make it. So, yeah, like going back to like armor. So this is like the red here is armor. This is all like
Bob says Jaws of Death.
Jaws of Death. Yes, play on Jaws of Life. I like that. So, oh yeah, you can kind of see that. So the red bit to me is like the carapace, like the Tyranid carapace plates. So like this is going to be like carapace colored because that's the like back veins. I want to do these as carapace as well, so that they look like big and armored. Kind of like while it's charging before it tears you apart, it could like hold its claws in close to its head and use them kind of like a shield. And same thing here, that this guy is going to be all... It's going to be armor plate.
Symbiojo says there are some more tentacles of the house packs left. You could use them as base for the entrails before putting sculpting a ribcage over it.
Oh.
I think he's talking about the grasping tongue.
Yeah, I don't... Oh, there... Oh, yeah! So one thing that I've always wanted to do with Hell is that... Or with Old One Eye / Hell, is that in the fluff, like, this creature regenerates, right? And, like, how do we represent regeneration on the model? We do this fucking thing.
Battle damage.
We're gonna put a little hole on it. Oh, look, it's got its eyeball shot out. But what if, like, the flesh was, like, hanging off of it, and it was, like, starting to, like, pull back and, like, reconstruct itself? And as you mentioned that, the webbing kind of stuff from the hair specs, I see that possibly as being, like, kind of hanging down and kind of, like, helping to reconstruct it. You know what? This claw and the hair specs, kind of garbage. These, however, I really like. Like the mouth bits, the mouth mandibles, they look like big jaws of death that I could get behind. So I'm not sure how I could incorporate them into the claw, but maybe?
Mark suggests to use the thumb bit of the Stonecrusher claw with the Haruspex claw.
Yeah, the thumb bit of the Stonecrusher claw is really the best bit. It is so nice. I really like that bit.
Yeah, it's also what's missing on the Haruspex claw, the thumb bit, to provide resistance to being clawed.
Yeah, well, it's got those two little, like, crappy thumb bits. The other thing is that the shape of the claws. So this one, it's not... I've never seen it as, like, curved like this. I've seen it as kind of being... Do I have a pen that you can see? Like, let's see. So we got... Okay, the Haruspex claw. So the Haruspex claw, if it's going like this, it goes kind of like this to the point, and then it goes like that. You can see that? When I look at this, what I see is this. So it's got this, like, kind of almost right angle here that almost, like, reminds me of, like, an axe blade. Can you see what I'm... Here, I'll hold that up. See the difference there? That this is, like... To me, this looks like a pincer. Or something like that. And, like, even the Haruspex claw is kind of pincery. But something about this really, like, speaks to me. And makes it look a little more, like, chonky and, like, Jaws of Death. That, like, weird right angle on it. So, though I'm... Go for it.
The right angle is, I think, more structurally sound in terms of transfer of power.
Well, you see that on the Stonecrusher, too. It has that kind of, like, a bit of a right angle that comes out on the top one. One thing I'm wondering is, like, if the existing crushing claws from the Carnifex are worth anything at all. I don't love them. I feel like they look like parrot beaks. I'm not crazy about them. But they could always be built up or extended or something. How do people feel about existing Carnifex Parabeak crushing claws?
I actually like them on Hive Guard, Tyrant Guard.
Those ones are nice. Where are my Tyrant Guard? They're a little longer, right?
I'm not quite sure if they're the same or if that's a different squad.
I guess what I mean is like in terms of ratio, they're smaller than the Carnifex ones, but the Carnifex ones are more like a crescent all the way around, whereas the Hive Guard ones they're kind of straight and then they curve.
Yeah, but I think they used the same sculpt and just trimmed off or rather added extra padding around the Carnifex one.
You think so? No, the Carnifex one came out like a lot earlier. And it's hard to explain, but there's more. The guard claw is like straight and then a hook at the end, whereas the Carnifex claw is like a curve all the way around. Which one of these is I? Oh, I haven't really busted in any of these, have I? This one? That one. Oh, I've already stolen claws off this one. So I have this thing where like I have all these Tyranid kits and I'm like, oh man, the bits, they're so precious. I should like keep them secret, keep them safe. And I feel like this project is me giving myself permission to just raid all of my Tyranid kits and just steal all the bits that I want from them and not try and keep them pristine or anything anymore. Because if there's one project that deserves it, it's this. Okay, so I'll steal some of those because I feel like they're good claws and I don't know how I'm going to use them, but maybe.
Blitz Mechanica offers I could model you something in Fusion 360 if you need anything custom.
Thank you, but I'm probably going to sculpt it. One thing that I've been playing with this is like, do I kit bash this model? Do I sculpt this model? Usually what I do is I start from an armature and then the armature is deficient and then I wind up just like sculpting the whole thing anyway. So I could just sculpt the whole thing from scratch, but it's a bit overwhelming feeling trying to sculpt the whole thing from scratch and making sure you're getting all the proportions right.
Thimbio Joe says about the crushing claw shape. It's basically the beak of a snapjaw turtle.
Oh, which one? The Carnifex one? That's a good observation.
What we talked about with the right angle and such.
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. But now I'm looking at a warrior or a Hive Guard carapace, and I'm like, could that be some kind of claw?
He continues, sadly, there are not many beaks around like that in miniature kits.
Well, I'll just have to make my own.
I find them a bit meh on the Carnifex. Over time, we've gotten so many better alternatives, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And Adam Weir says...
Hey, Adam!
Screamer Killer was always my favorite.
Yeah, that's why you're my favorite, Adam. Because you know how to suck up to me with the models that I love the best. Okay. This out of here.
And Bob says another thing I think you should think about is the mechanics of or functionality of the beast. Like, he's got those huge claws. What are his little talents doing?
Yep. It's a good point.
And Blitz Mechanica asked, what if you used a real squid or octopus beak?
I don't know where I would get one, but that's certainly what this looks like. Alright. There's like random bits missing from my leftover Haruspex bits, and I don't really remember what I used them for, which is concerning. Oh, there we go. There's the other bit of webbing. So was it Symbio Joe or was it Darth Bob who was talking about using the Haruspex webbing for stuff? I wanna hear more about that idea. Whose ever idea that was. Oh man, that looks, when you put them together, it looks like weird Tyranid ribs. Interesting.
Bob said that about the hairdo webbing.
Was it the hairdo webbing? Someone said something about the hair specs webbing. That it could be
I'm
like.
trying to find it.
Oh, thanks. It was like the open flesh or something. I don't know. It was something along those lines.
Symbiote Joe was the one with the more tentacles.
What? What?
Hold
on. Sorry. Can you? I gotta. I'll be back in a second. Kajan, can you just chat it up with people?
Yeah, sure. Can try.
Yeah. Or you guys just chat amongst yourselves. Have lovely Tyranid conversations. I'll be right back.
Blitz, I don't think he can do the fish market in Chinatown to get such a beat. Yeah, it looks like the non-queen wants some words with them. Let's use this opportunity to talk about Battletech. I don't know if Pink is in the chat or not, but I've looked into the urban Mac for him, and it seems to be entirely original for the Battletech. Based on what I could find out, it's Craig Reed who designed the Irby for the Battle Technology magazine in the early 90s. No, I didn't quite finish my crude yet. I went over to Nomvember for location, and I'm right now working on my own Red Terror model. Yeah, I don't quite like the Red Terror model we have right now, because it's old and it doesn't look anything like the roughness anymore. So I want to convert an actual Ravner into a Red Terror. And right now I'm trying to find a way how I get it to split open its chest plate to swallow something. That's great news with the crude diorama. Was there a lot of competition? I'm not quite. So I'm sorry for trying to fill the air. I'm not quite sure what I should say right now. I'm not used to this. Thanks, Jacob. So, what's everybody's opinion on the current situation with chaos? Since you started talking about Slaanesh, it seems like we are going to get some more Slaanesh stuff. If you're asking me, Daft, I'm still. My second project is still a custom lictor where I have went and upscaled it from a warrior model, and I used the torso of the Neurotrope, put it sideways so I could attach a sculpting tail onto its back, and since I don't like the current rending claws, I put on extra large rending claws. And hi, Colin. Yeah, that's what I was referring to, Jacob. The big Slaanesh released for Age of Sigmar. I would expect we are going to get them over to 40k. Mansack, that's an interesting idea to use a multi-lift body. I'm not quite sure how he feels about that.
Hey, thanks, Kajan, for taking over. We just got some bad news about a family member who tested positive for COVID. So I need to kind of call the stream, but
I'm sorry to hear.
that's okay. It's not direct family, just kind of like more associate. But yeah. So I gotta go. But
Okay, bye.
thank you so much for doing this. And I am planning to do a lot of hobbying this weekend, if I can. So maybe we'll continue this conversation then, because this has been really, really helpful, and I've enjoyed all of your suggestions. So yeah, let's say it's to be continued, and let's try for it again, possibly on Saturday or Sunday. And yeah, Colin, please.
Take care, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And Colin, please brainstorm for bits. I was waiting for you to show up because I thought you'd have a lot of great Tyranid ideas. You all have great Tyranid ideas. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all the well wishes. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the stream, and I'll see you all soon. I'm going to try my best to put up a video for tomorrow of our judging of the Kroottoberfest conversion contest, because I finished editing that video today. So I need to upload it to YouTube. And I'll schedule it to premiere tomorrow at 8 p.m. And we can all, when you schedule a premiere, it has comments. So we can all like comment on it live and watch it together, and pretend that it was a live stream that actually worked rather than my fail stream on Sunday. So you can look forward to that if you're around tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So maybe I'll chat with you all then. And yeah, and Kajan, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
I would love to do this with you again during Nomvember if you're up for it, if your schedule allows, because I really like having someone